signing ceremony on Friday in Geneva, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and others, and a large Iranian contingent. Okay, that's very troubling. And I'll tell you why here in a little bit. Third, the official stressed that we're here not just because of the last 1.5 years of the Trump administration, but because of the first 4 years of the Trump administration as well. The sanctions pressures built up and they believe created leverage. Okay. Fourth, the reason negotiations have been very fruitful was because of the degradation of Iran's economy and the scattering of their government, which created a lot of internal pressure. Fifth, there are significant new communications channels. The official describes the initial Islamabad, Pakistan meeting as very fruitful, despite not resulting in a new deal. It laid the groundwork. Sixth, Operation Project Freedom has been an unsung hero in this, resulting in over 7 million barrels of oil a day. That increased U.S. leverage. Eighth, the nuclear talks are described as technical in terms of how to retrieve the enriched uranium. Ninth, the official stressed this is not a pay for play. They will not get access to markets or release of their funds just for showing up for a meeting. 10th, there are fascinating internal political dynamics playing out in Iran. There are constituencies that want different things. Iran, by all accounts, should be incredibly wealthy. 11th, the U.S. official said, we go in very clear-eyed that Iran has been a bad faith actor in negotiations for 47 years. Everything will be verified. All released assets and sanctions relief is tied to milestones. 12th, the U.S. will keep the current military force posture for now to make sure that Iran does what they say they're going to do. The deal contemplates a partial drawdown upon the signing of the nuclear deal, which that would be, again, not this Friday, but sometime supposedly before the end of the 60-day period as Iran continues to drag things out. Oh, did I just give an opinion there before I even got through this thing? Well, pretty much, yeah. Next, one of the aspects of the negotiation that was actually easier than others was the nuclear, because they need our technical expertise to get the dust out. Also, Iran would probably love to have a nuclear weapon, but they know U.S. intelligence is so precise that they can't do it in secret, and the threat of force is now realized. Well, see, that's the thing right there that a lot of us have been going, now, wait a minute. How are we going to enforce this? How are we going to know what they're doing behind closed doors, in secret, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Don't you hope this part is true? Iran would probably love to have a nuclear weapon, but they know U.S. intelligence is so precise that they can't do it in secret, and the threat of force is now realized? Man, that'd be nice if that's true. Next, the Gulf states generally love this deal. They saw the JCPOA, that was the Obama nuke deal, as empowering Iran to be a bad actor. They see this as a regional deal that pressures Iran to behave and bring stability to the entire region. And last but not least, the full deal will be published soon, but we're still in the building trust phase. I wish I knew what that meant. Who's building trust with whom? Now, I had a response to all this out there on X, and some folk got upset with me. And I'll tell you what I said here in a minute as the Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. One oh one point one The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. If you want to get into the conversation, whatever we're talking about at the time, talk to us on the radio about it. Number to call is 501 401 1011. So, this Friday, again, not only according to Andrew Colvett, executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, but this is widely reported all over the media. This Friday, a signing ceremony on the Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States is scheduled for Geneva, Switzerland. And in that signing ceremony, we would have Vice President J.D. Vance, our two main negotiators with Iran, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and others, and a large Iranian contingent. And so I said, the idea that the whole world we'll see a photo of our vice president shaking hands with a homicidal maniac representing Iran is terrible. And so there was a response from some guy, Sterling Dupre, who does political commentary. He says, is it? Trump shook hands with Kim Jong-un, too. He's shaking hands with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. And I was ready. I responded, when we took out those in charge of the Iranian regime, our president announced that help was coming to the Iranian people. Has there ever been a similar announcement to the people of China, Russia, or North Korea? Iran continues to execute innocent people, and Iranians feel betrayed. Now, I want to ask you, we got an audio clip. Producer Val, it is the last audio clip on the email that I sent earlier today. Trump addressed to Iranian people at beginning. If we can play that one, because I just want to know if anybody remembers this from a few months ago.
Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass.
So they thought that was actually going to happen. But doesn't look like it now. This is very troubling. So a lot of us on X who follow politics, who follow national security, who follow foreign policy, follow a person on X who goes by the handle Data Republican. She's got close to 1 million followers on X, and she says, my opinion on the actual Iran deal, this may end up being an even bigger tar baby for the Trump administration than actually starting the Iranian war. Now, she knows that we've been at war with them for 47 years, but she's talking about the latest hostilities. She says this has nothing to do with accusations of capitulation. It has nothing to do with comparisons to the Obama nuke deal. It's that it's much more than a what's wrong with wanting peace thing. It all comes down to the fact, are you ready? It all comes down to the fact that the deal legitimizes the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. That legitimacy is going to be the decisive factor for a lot of players. Israel, most of all. The moment the U.S. signs across the table from the IRGC, we treat it as a normal government instead of what the Iranians in exile have been saying all these years, what Israel believed going in, what Trump himself said just a few months ago. My read on why the U.S. did it anyway, they got their interests served, wanted an official war is over to run on going into the midterms, and needed to buy time on the Strait of Hormuz. Fair enough on our own terms, but disaster in geopolitics. In my opinion, the better outcome was to refuse to legitimize any regime at all, even if that meant no deal and just holding the status quo until we figured out a real answer to Hormuz. She gives you an analogy here. She says, imagine the reaction of over 7 million Venezuelans that are exiled from their own country if Trump released Nicolas Maduro from jail, put him back in charge of Venezuela. Doesn't matter what conditions he would get to do that for Maduro. It would still be perceived as a geopolitical betrayal. Some armchair quarterbacking. We eliminated Iran's Navy and Air Force. We set back their military program. Good, we won. Everything else comes down to the Strait of Hormuz. Aggressively invest in alternatives to Hormuz. Any deal struck with the IRGC must be short-term, ceasefires, passages, and avoid the appearance of legitimizing the IRGC. Chase down Lloyd's of London and other bad faith players which magnify the Strait of Hormuz fiasco, as John A. Conrad V has been warning us. Now, in case you don't remember, John A. Conrad V is the CEO of the most trafficked maritime news website in the world. It's called G Captain. And he's had a lot of stuff to say about the negotiations and this whole deal. And early on, I think back in March, we read and shared with you on the show an explanation that he had about how important the Strait of Hormuz is. So, a lot of concerns out there about this deal, and a lot of people, a lot of conservative Trump supporters out there on X are being much more critical of him than I am. I mean, that's Emily Schrader, founder of the Iran-Israel Alliance and reporter for ILTV News, is out there saying the fact that the U.S. administration has refused to release the key points of this memorandum of understanding, thus allowing the Islamic regime to dictate the public narrative time after time, is an inexcusable failure by the United States. This is not good governance, and it's not good negotiating either. It's beyond comprehension why a president who was clearly winning a war would listen to fools like Witkoff and Vance to supposedly make a deal that preserves the interests and survival of the Islamic Republic. What Kushner, Witkoff, and Vance have done is unforgivable. She says, I can't think of many good reasons why the administration would be hiding the terms of the memorandum of understanding, but I can think of a lot of bad ones. Man, that's unfortunate. And then somebody else printed a headline from April 2nd, 2015, over 11 years ago. Washington Post: Iran agrees to nuclear restrictions in framework deal with world powers. Well, that certainly sounds familiar. A lot of concerns out there. And it's up to the Trump administration to say, no, Iran's lying about this, they're lying about that. Here's what's really going on. We're waiting. As Doc Washer Show continues, Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. One hundred 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. If you want to get into the conversation, what we're talking about, which right now is the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran, which apparently is supposed to be signed in Geneva, Switzerland this Friday. Number to call is 501-401-1273. 1011. And Ralph in Little Rock apparently thought that was a good idea. Ralph, you're on the Doc Washer Show. What's up, brother?
Hey, Doc. Two things to consider. A long, long time ago, when Aramco, Arabian American Oil,
Yeah.
was being founded, it was to everybody's advantage to control through OPEC oil.
Okay.
We didn't talk about a pipeline around Hormuz until all of their quote-unquote cousins and partners started getting attacked by Iran.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
So if all of these other quote unquote cousins, family, are now in a position to lose some of the power and the wealth, now all of a sudden, there's no reason to talk about it anymore. It's old news. That happened last week. So therefore, why bother to release the terms? Why expose the dirty laundry?
Well, because Americans want to know what's going on, right? I mean, look, even Lindsey Graham, who I'm not a big fan of, he said, well, I'm kind of concerned, but the way our law works is after they sign this, they'll have to bring it to Congress and we'll get to see it then. So I've got a lot of questions. It's very unusual that I would agree with Lindsey on much of anything, but I looked at that statement. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of concerned too. And it'll be interesting to see, because I mean, they got to, well, Trump even said, Trump said publicly, yeah, I want to get the deal out there and we'll release the verbiage, the text of the deal shortly after it's signed Friday in Geneva. And people are like, okay. But,
right. But meanwhile, and going forward, even after it's signed, who gets protected? You once said, and other people have told me, follow the money.
yeah.
That's all I wanted to say. Just don't forget, follow the money. All of a sudden, we're going to build pipelines around Hormuz. We could have done it 40 years ago, but who would have lost money?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me ask you one other question, though. When you got
Sure.
Turkey, Pakistan, and Qatar real happy with this deal, and we know that all three of those countries fund jihad terrorists, I'm kind of concerned that that's getting kind of lost in the mix.
Well, of course it is, but aren't you like going, yeah, and what else is new? I am.
Yeah, but I just wish there was somebody. I'm not sure how up to speed Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are on the religious impulse of people like the Ayatollah and his merry band of thugs in wanting to bring chaos on the earth. So,
Well, at this point in time, for the geopolitical stuff,
yeah,
isn't it more important to get oil moving? And therefore, whatever else it is, as long as it doesn't have, a barrel pointed at them, isn't it to their, and our best interests to run with the best we can get for now? I just,
okay.
that's what it
Well,
looks like
but
to
see,
me.
a lot of people are saying the best we could get now would have been to continue taking out the people in charge of Iran and get the regime out of the way so the people can do what they want to do over there. Instead, we're leaving these guys in power.
Well, but isn't that kind of a duh?
In other words, it's in other words,
rid
it's
of the maniacs.
yeah. In other words, it's so obvious I didn't even need to say it.
Oh, well, you're trying to be a good guy doing the thing that you do that I appreciate so much, that I kind of felt like maybe I should be the one to say, hey, Doc, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
kind of like, what's up, Doc? Can we rock?
Yes. Well, we try to at least create the impression that we can rock. Yes. Yes. And I, as always, I appreciate your kind words.
Take care.
All right. God bless you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Let the record reflect that. Oh, I didn't know he's still there. Let the record reflect that I believe that our last caller would have been just fine with us taking out the rest of the regime. Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's still there. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for your call again. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay. We'll go to some audio here. Vice President Vance had some things to say, and we'll get to him in a minute. But we want to start off with Peter Doocy on the Iran deal, cut one. Peter Doocy with Fox on the Iran deal, cut one, please.
And this is pretty unusual. We will wind up seeing a group of American diplomats and a group of Iranian diplomats together in the same place to talk about this memorandum of understanding and sign it before we ever actually see what is in it. President Trump just told us that we are not going to get the details until after J.D. Vance and Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff leave Geneva.
Okay, and that's kind of what the caller was talking about there. And then we actually have a short audio clip of President Trump on the deal not being released yet.
This is a very powerful document, and I want it to be released so probably pretty soon. I would say sometime after Friday, because the Strait opens. It's open now, but it opens completely. We'll have all the mines knocked out for the most part. We have a lot of lanes right now already.
And yet, some of us are restive, if I may use that term, President Company. Peter Doocy on Iran deal cut 2, please.
Trump ally Lindsey Graham is kind of nervous about this. He posted, "I am somewhat concerned that Iran's view of the agreement seems different than what the American negotiating team is claiming. Under our law, any nuclear deal with Iran will be sent to Congress for review and a vote. I look forward to reviewing the final product." The Iranians are claiming, to Lindsey Graham's point, that they are going to get paid up front. The Americans say that's not true. President Trump also just said here in Europe that this agreement does not include sanctions relief. So what's in it for Iran? The vice president has revealed the parties are moving forward with a multi-billion-dollar fund to help rebuild Iran.
Ouch. By the way, is there an echo in here? Was Peter listening in when I was talking to Lindsey Graham? I keyed. Okay. Vice President Vance on rebuilding Iran, please.
So we absolutely are open to the Gulf Coast countries investing in the reconstruction of Iran, but only if Iran ends their nuclear program, ends their enriched stockpile of material, and is really open to an inspections and enforcement regime that gives the American people confidence they're never going to have a nuclear weapon.
I'd also like confidence that they're not going to get billions of dollars to rebuild, but oh, well, we'd all like a lot of things, right? Okay, we got one more clip from Peter Doocy on Iran deal. Cut 3, please.
And the reason that this is a memorandum of understanding and not a deal is because the Iranian foreign minister, who we expect to see here in Switzerland by the end of this week, says the negotiations won't actually begin. The first round of negotiations won't actually begin until after this thing gets signed on Friday.
See, that's what a lot of people who, unlike me, have lives and they're not really paying attention, don't realize. There's no deal. We're signing basically a memorandum of understanding to extend the ceasefire for another 60 days. As President Trump said several years ago, Iran has never won a war and they've never lost a negotiation. And that's troubling. All right, let me take a look at what the great Insurrection Barbie, Defiantly Free, is saying over there on X. She says, Vance, That's the kind of thing they could have access to from the Gulf Coalition if they honor their commitments. So basically, rewording what VP Vance just said, Insurrection Barbie says, which means if they honor their commitments, whatever they are, they'll have access to large amounts of cash. Why is this a problem? Because history has shown us that when Iran has access to money, they don't invest it. Under the JCPOA, the Obama-Iran nuke deal, the Congressional Research Service stated under the easing of U.S. and EU sanctions, Iran will be allowed to access roughly $100 billion in revenues frozen abroad in escrow. Their military spending rose from 2015 to 2017 after the deal, reversing a 30% decline that had happened under sanctions from 2006 to 2015. Proxy funding rose alongside it, and by 2018, Iran was sending Hezbollah around $700 million a year, about 70% of the group's revenue. When Trump started his maximum pressure sanctions campaign in the first term, Iran had to cut the flow to Hezbollah, and they had to lay off fighters, pull troops from Syria, and slash programs. That's why giving money to the IRGC is a problem no matter where it comes from. Remember, Vance said, well, there's some Gulf states that are going to put together a fund and everything. Insurrection Barbie says it doesn't matter where the money comes from. Iran doesn't give it to their people. They fund terror proxies. Yeah, that's really not good. Now, I was watching Fox News, getting ready to go to church on Sunday morning, and I could not believe what one of the Fox and Friends co-hosts, Rachel, for the weekend. They have a different crew Saturday and Sunday morning than they do weekends, weekdays, that is. Rachel Campos Duffy, I couldn't believe what she said. And that is coming up as the Doc Washer Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You want to get on the air with me and discuss what I'm talking about? The number to call is 501-401-1011. And if you're listening a few minutes ago, I do tend to be polite with the callers. So, we don't bite. But only if you want to get on the air with us and talk about what we're talking about. Well, no, producer had a point. Yeah, I'm not going to completely shift gears and get into whether we agree or disagree that the designated hitter rule is good for Major League Baseball. That's not really, Well, no. I mean, yeah, well, I got it. Yeah, there are all kinds of things that people would like to talk about, but it's a crazy thing. Since we are talk radio, we tend to talk about stuff that's in the news right now. And so again, I was shocked. Sunday morning, I was so shocked that I paused the TV and I rewound the TV like 30 seconds or whatever, so I could record what Rachel Campos Duffy actually said on Fox and Friends Weekend on Sunday morning about the whole Iran situation, because I was flabbergasted. And both of her co-hosts looked very uncomfortable because, see, you're not supposed to get in a knockdown, drag-out argument with your co-host on Fox News unless you are on the 5 and the token liberal, like Jessica Tarlov, says something patently stupid, and then Jesse Waters or Greg Gutfeld or somebody will just go off on her. Now, I wanted to make sure I knew who the hosts are on Fox and Friends Weekends. And ever told you? Google AI overview. If you have a question about something in the Bible, they always get it right. If you have a question about current events, they frequently get it wrong. You're going to love this. The current co-hosts of Fox and Friends Weekend are Pete Hegseth, Rachel Campos Duffy, and Will Cain. Well, that's not true. Pete Hegseth has been Secretary of War for at least a year. And Will Cain has had his own show on at 3 p.m. Central since last year. That's just remarkable. Anyway, I was having a hard time remembering Griff Jenkins' name. Griff Jenkins was on one side of Rachel Campos Duffy, and Charlie Hurt was on the other side. And those are your current Fox and Friends Weekend hosts. So, could we play Rachel Campos Duffy on Iran, the clip, please?
Now that we know that Israel for, the past 15 or more years have been lobbying to have us go to war with Iran and deal with the nuclear weapons, which President Trump has done on their behalf. And then in the middle of that, this front in Lebanon has opened up, Israel attacking Lebanon over Hezbollah.
So I saw that. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Rachel Campos Duffy is married to President Trump's Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. And she thinks that we attacked Iran to deal with a nuclear situation because Israel has been trying to get us to do this since the first term of the Obama administration. See, because I thought it was in our interest to keep Iran from getting nukes. I mean, I don't agree with the president on everything, but I think I agree with him on most things. And when he said that, it made sense. And he wasn't the only one that said it. Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, go down the list. But not according to Rachel. We've got an edit. Rachel Campos Duffy edit. Let's play that, please.
Now that we know that Israel for, the past 15 or more years have been lobbying to have us go to war with Iran and deal with the nuclear weapons, which President Trump has done.
That's just remarkable. And of course, Griff Jenkins and Charlie Hurt are sitting there looking with pained expressions on their faces, going, bite your tongue, bite your tongue, bite your tongue. Just let it go. Maybe it's Sunday morning. Not nearly as many people are watching. Maybe we can just let it ride and just pretend like it didn't happen. And, 15, 20 minutes from now, most of the people watching will not have been watching during this. But why does she say such stupid things? Okay, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Bite your tongue. As if she's the female Tucker Carlson and it's all about Israel. Buddy. As if Iran has not been using proxies to kill hundreds, over 1,000 Americans, going back to the bombing of the Marine barracks in Lebanon in the early 80s. I mean, Rachel Campos Duffy usually sounds relatively intelligent. She's got 9 kids. She homeschools them. I mean, but that right there, that was stupid. And of course, nobody's going to touch it. But that's what I do. All right. One of the things I want to do, and we'll get back to Iran, but there's a guy out there named Chris Jones, who was the Democrat nominee for governor 4 years ago, ran in the general election against Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And he is now the Democrat nominee for the 2nd District of the U.S. House, running against Republican French Hill in November. And I have for you verified evidence that Chris Jones really does not want to win that race. He does not want to go to Congress to represent Central Arkansas. And I'll give you the proof after the 5 o'clock news. Doc Washer Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues. If you want to get on the air with me and discuss what I'm talking about, number to call is 501-401-1011. If you just jumped in the car, truck, van, or SUV, just got out of work. We've been talking about this Iran memorandum of understanding, and a lot of people very concerned about it. We'll probably get to it again before the end of the show. But I don't know how many people are aware of this. Well, people listen to talk radio are going to tend to be aware of it. But a lot of folks who don't really pay attention to what's going on around them, they may vote for president every 4 years. Conservatives are going to tend to vote for a Republican. Liberals are going to tend to vote for a Democrat. But a lot of these folks don't vote in the in-between years. And the problem with that is threefold. First of all your constitutional officers, your governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, treasurer, land commissioner, and I'm leaving one out. Did I say treasurer? Anyway, they have 4-year terms and they're up for re-election in the middle, in between the presidential election years. So, in other words, for instance, when I did my Don Quixote impersonation, tilting windmills all over the state, in 2022, I was the only opponent to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the Republican gubernatorial primary. Well, of course, with her $11 million, she had no problem wiping the floor with me. So she was the Republican nominee for governor, and you cannot elect a Democrat to a statewide office these days in Arkansas. Just like you can't elect a Democrat to Congress from Arkansas. But the problem with people only voting every 4 years for president is that governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, all those offices are up for re-election every 4 years between the presidential election years. So 2018, 2022, 2026. I mean, I had a comment from somebody on social media a month or two ago said, hey, man, I supported you for governor. And he had no idea that Sarah is running for re-election this year. So the other problem is that every member of the U.S. House is up for re-election every 2 years. So the Republicans and the Democrats running for U.S. House get a lot more votes combined in the presidential election years than they do in the other years. Because a lot of people who are going in to vote for a Republican for president will vote Republican right down the line. A lot of people go in to vote for Democrat for president, vote for Democrat right down the line. And then last but not least, your U.S. senators, Tom Cotton and John Boozman, they have 6-year terms. So half the time they're running for re-election in a presidential year, and half the time they're running for re-election when it's not a presidential election year. Now, why am I going into all this detail? Well, as I said before, the top of the hour news break, this gentleman named Chris Jones out of Pine Bluff, who was the Democrat nominee for governor 4 years ago against Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I met Chris Jones, seemed like a nice guy, definitely seemed like a sharp guy. He's some kind of scientist. He actually has a college degree. I can't remember what kind of science. Didn't he have something to do with the space program? Anyway. So, of course, Sarah beat him in the general election without a problem. Because again, you cannot get elected. No Democrat has gotten elected to a statewide office in Arkansas or even a seat in Congress from Arkansas for 16 years now. It's impossible. So this year, Chris Jones is running for U.S. House as a Democrat. He's a Democrat nominee running against French Hill in the 2nd District. That's Central Arkansas. So he knows he doesn't have a chance because the way the state legislature redistricted our congressional districts after the 2020 census came out, see, they had been concerned because French Hill only beat his Democrat opponent, Clark Tucker, by 6 points in 2018. And Republicans state legislature are like, oh, now, wait a minute. This is the red state, right? Right. We only have 4 congressional districts, right? Right. So why should any of them be competitive for a Democrat candidate? That doesn't make any sense. So Republicans state legislature looked at the map, realized that extreme southeast Pulaski County, like around East End, that area, was pretty blue, pretty Democrat. And they said, I'll tell you what, let's redistrict this, and we'll give part of extreme southeast Pulaski County to Bruce Westerman's district and the other part of it to Rick Crawford's district, knowing it would be a drop in the bucket for each one of these guys, and they would still get reelected by double digits against whoever the Democrats ran. But now, lo and behold, and they added Cleburne County to French Hill's district, brought it over from Rick Crawford's district. Now, lo and behold, all 4 congressional districts for the U.S. House from Arkansas are safe Republican districts. So, again, when I met Chris Jones 4 years ago, he seemed to be a very intelligent young fellow. He knows he doesn't have any chance in the world to actually beat French Hill and be the first Democrat sent to D.C. from Arkansas in 16 years. But I now have evidence that he doesn't want to just lose to French Hill. He wants it to be a blowout. And here's why I say that. Arkansas Democrat Gazette had a big story on Saturday morning's paper. Pete Buttigieg to appear with U.S. House candidate Chris Jones in Little Rock. Pete Buttigieg, former U.S. Secretary of Transportation and 2020 Democrat presidential candidate, will appear in Little Rock next week to campaign for Chris Jones, who's running for Arkansas's 2nd Congressional District. Buttigieg, a former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, announced on Friday morning his endorsement of Chris Jones, who's running as a Democrat against incumbent Republican French Hill. No venue has been announced for the June 19th joint appearance, but the Jones campaign confirmed it will be in Little Rock and open to the public. Well, that's not what their Facebook page says. Their Facebook page says you have to RSVP, and they're filled up, whatever, and they never did announce the location. And that's fine. But I'll tell you this. I saw a national poll a few months ago. They polled people who are likely to vote in the Democrat presidential primary in 2028. Who do you think you want to vote for as a Democrat for president in the Democrat primary in your state in 2028? I think Kamala was number 1, and Gavin Newsom was probably not too far behind. Pete Buttigieg was like maybe number 3 or 4, something like that. But the interesting thing to me was that Pete Buttigieg had with black Democrat primary voters, a 0%. So I don't think I'd mention that Chris Jones is black. Doesn't really matter because you have a much higher percentage. My point is not about the candidate, but about the base of the party. You have a much higher percentage of black folks voting Democrat than white folks. So apparently Chris Jones is like, yo, I don't want French Hill to just beat me by like 15 points. Let's see if we can get up to 30. I want a smackdown this November. I want people to know that I was willing to take one for the team. So let's see. How can we demoralize our base voters? How can we get black folk to not come out to the polls to vote for me, Chris Jones, for Congress against French Hill this November? I know. What about that white boy from Indiana, the gay guy? Yeah. The one that no black person will vote for in the presidential primary 2 years from now when he runs for president. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Now, the only question is, why is Chris Jones going to do this? I don't know. I mean, since he knows he can't beat French Hill anyway because it's a safe Republican district, why is he even running in the first place? I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to get enough name recognition to audition for a place on MSNBC. Or, I'm old enough to remember 6 years ago, last time Lindsey Graham was up for re-election, U.S. Senate in South Carolina, his Democrat opponent was a guy named Jamie Harrison, who never run for anything in his life. And of course, Lindsey Graham just smoked him, just spanked him like a baby, or like a rented mule, something like that. And next thing you know, Jamie Harrison was chairman of the Democrat National Committee for 4 years. So I think Chris Jones is probably just trying to fail up, either to, be a regular guy on MSNBC, or maybe have some kind of position with the National Democrat National Committee, because nothing else makes sense. I would like to know. Yeah, no, I know. I would like to know who's consulting him, though. Producer Valley, maybe you can find out who's consulting Chris Jones. I know you got connections. Anyway, just a thought. Just a thought. A JP in Pulaski County is in the news, and I guess we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Doc Washer Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where if we're talking about something that you are interested in and you want to get into the conversation on the radio, it's really easy. All you have to do is call us at 501 401 1011. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Phil Stowers. Phil Stowers is a JP representing District 13 in Pulaski County. And Phil has said and done some pretty shocking, scandalous things here in the last few months. And we reported at length on what elections official Michael White said about Phil Stowers, and we offered to let him come on the show, and Stowers ignored us. So now he's got to resign because all the available evidence shows that he moved out of his district, and you cannot continue to represent a district as a justice of peace in Arkansas if you moved out. Yeah. Well, see, the media is reporting that there was a lot of conflict because Phil doesn't want data centers held accountable. He does want them held accountable? No, he doesn't want them held accountable. No. And so a lot of people, the media is just like grasping at straws, like, well, how come the guy's resigning all of a sudden? This is weird. Because they don't know what we know. So allow me, if it pleases the court, I'd like to revise and amend my remarks. He's not resigning because he moved out of the district. He's resigning because he got called out on having moved out of the district like 3 years ago. And that's illegal. But to give you some context, back in February, Michael White, who is on the Pulaski County Elections Commission, said the shocking, unacceptable reality an elected official has attempted to intimidate me, an elections official, on the record, with a bunch of exclamation marks. This is outrageous and demands immediate attention. Phil Stowers, Justice of the Peace for District 13, Pulaski County Quorum Court, elected by the voters of his district and serving continuously since 2005, sent the following email to my official county elections address last week. Screenshots of the email are included below and attached for full transparency. This kind of intimidation has no place in public service. I strongly urge every concerned citizen to contact their district's JP and the full quorum court to express your outrage, seek explanations, and demands that such behavior be investigated and addressed without delay. Your voice matters in protecting fair elections. And so he's got the email attached, but and I believe our friend Luke McCoy was the one who moved to censure Phil Stowers, because, I mean, that's about all you can do, I guess. But now our friend Karen Maynard on the Pulaski County School Board found out, and I think that she would get credit to a little bird having told her that Phil moved out of the district a few years ago. And so to continue showing up, now for those of you who are new to Arkansas, you're like, JP, Justice of the Peace, what's that? Well, most other states would call them county commissioners, but for some reason here we call them JP, and that works for us here in Arkansas. Anyway, Justice of the Peace. No, no, they're not like a magistrate in case you get thrown in the pokey for public drunk on a Friday night. You're not going to show up in front of a JP on Saturday morning. No, it's like a county commissioner in the other states. Okay, we got it. Anyway, but there are 15 districts in Pulaski County, and to represent your district, you have to live in the district. And if you move out of the district, then you got to give up your seat. And the evidence is out there. It's just that Democrat Gazette and the TV stations apparently are not up to speed on this yet. That Phil moved out of his district in 2023 and didn't tell anybody, and continues or did continue showing up for work at the monthly meetings because, in my humble opinion, and you're entitled to it, Mr. Sowers has a sense of entitlement. Like, who are you to tell me what to do? The rules don't apply to me because I'm a friend of Bill and Hill. I know he's got an R by his name, but he acts like he would be a friend of Bill and Hill. Again, that's my humble opinion. You're entitled to it. At 501-401-1011, the Doc Washer Show continues. 101.1, The Answer. 101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. If we're talking about something you want to get in the conversation, number to call is 501-401-1011. So we had the story just a little bit earlier on the show. Phil Stowers, Pulaski County Justice of the Peace, resigning from office, apparently because he got called on the fact that he moved out of the district 3 years ago, and that's against the law. So if you want to get the full scoop, Val Emmons, who is co-host with Dave Ellswick on our morning show, just put it up on her Facebook page. She has been doing the yeoman's work, researching and getting to the bottom of this. So the first I ever heard of Phil Stowers was when he said horrible things to another elected official, Michael White, of the Pulaski County Elections Commission back in February. He should have been kicked off the quorum court at that point, but at least they censured him. All right, let's get back to the Iran deal. J.D. Vance basically reading the riot act to Jake Tapper over on CNN. Quote, not a single dollar of sanctions relief or unfrozen assets, unquote. He says Iran hardliners are overplaying what they get with a memorandum of understanding that's supposed to be signed in Geneva, Switzerland this Friday. And a big hat tip to M.A. Rothman over there on X, who digs deep on a lot of this stuff. Reports circulating after today's U.S.-Iran nuclear deal announcement claimed the Trump administration agreed to pay Iran billions of dollars and immediately unfreeze assets before any Iranian concessions. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked directly by Jake Tapper on CNN about those reports today, and he shut them down. Quote, there hasn't been a single dollar of sanctions relief or unfrozen assets, either from the United States or any of our allies in the Gulf. I've seen some misreporting about that. I don't know where it comes from, unquote. Vance then explained exactly where it does come from. Hardliners inside the Iranian system are deliberately overstating what Iran gets from the deal in order to sell it to their own domestic audiences without mentioning the extensive obligations Iran has to meet before any benefit materializes. Okay, well, now wait a minute. What do the Ayatollah and the IRGC care what citizens of Iran think? What am I missing here? Anyway, another quote from Vice President J.D. Vance. Certain elements within the Iranian system, certain hardliners in particular, they're going to overemphasize in an effort to sell it to certain domestic populations. They're going to overemphasize what Iran gets from the bargain without ever articulating the things that Iran has to give up in order to get those benefits, unquote. The deal structure, as Vance described it, is this. A significant sanctions relief package is possible, but Iran only collects it if it meets verifiable obligations. Iran's enriched stockpile is currently buried deep underground. If Tehran refuses to comply, it never gets the resources to rebuild a program costing billions. If it commits to verifiable milestones, the relationship transforms. Either way, the United States wins. Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. Another quote from J.D. Vance. He says, I would caution everybody to be skeptical of what certain propaganda elements within the regime are saying. They only get the benefit of that opportunity if they do the things they promise they're going to do. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of us are concerned that early on, shortly after we hit Iran took out about 50 of their top guys, the Ayatollah and the head of the military and the head of their State Department, the head of this, that, and the other thing, that President Trump made a public announcement to the long-suffering people of Iran that help was coming. And that's not happening because part of the deal is that the current regime gets to stay in power. So, I mean, this is not good. It's not just not good for Iranians, but it's not good for us. Now, you ever heard of Candace Owens? She's out there today fiddling around with the FBI, and they responded. She says, via FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, we formally requested Kash Patel's travel itinerary for the 3 days leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and we just heard back, and we're told the burden of the request is too great. How is this even remotely legal? Well, FBI Rapid Response responded, Dear Real Candace O, that's her handle over there on X, please show us on the document sent to you acknowledging your FOIA request where we said the burden of the request is too great. Your show, just like the fake news media, will be called out when you lie. We hope this helps. See, because they got a copy of the letter they sent her, and there's nothing in it whatsoever that says her request for Kash Patel's travel itinerary for 3 days before Charlie Kirk's assassination, for 3 days anywhere, would be, the burden of that request would be too great. They never said that. Now, gentle listener, if it in any way brings discomfort to you that I might imply that Candace Owens is lying, you know me. I mean, I'm the last one in the world that would want to rattle anybody's cage. You know me. I like to keep things close to the vest. I don't want to get anybody upset. But my producer, young Val, on the other side of the glass is laughing. But you know, sometimes you just gotta go where it takes you. It was not on my bingo card to talk about the great scam artist Candace Owens today, but the FBI basically just said, so you're lying, and here's the proof that you're lying, and yo, what up? What do you want to do now? So, yeah. So that's the deal with that. Okay. Axios reporting, scoop, CIA Director John Ratcliffe told President Trump and other senior officials that intelligence by the U.S. raised serious doubts about Iran's willingness to make the nuclear concessions the U.S. is seeking in a final deal. Really? I mean, how much do they pay Ratcliffe a year? I could have told you that for free. Hey! Axios is like, I don't know, man. Ratcliffe is saying this, and, you know, I mean, CIA, they got, what do you call spies, intelligence analysts. So, yeah, you might want to think about that. Now, we're not just making this up. This is the actual CIA Director, John Ratcliffe, telling President Trump and other senior officials that intelligence gathered by the U.S. raises serious doubts about Iran's willingness to make the nuclear concessions the U.S. is seeking in a final deal. So whoever the reporter over there at Axios is, I got to click on the link and find out. Somebody is running for the Captain Obvious Award. Barack Ravid, of course. Good old Barack Ravid. Yeah, that's funny stuff. I like that. But let's see what Rebecca Heinrichs over the Hudson Institute says. Rebecca Heinrichs, she's been on Fox a lot lately talking about this stuff. She says the mark of a real realist is that he takes into account the ideology of the enemy. There are plenty of self-styled realists who are profoundly idealist because they believe people are fundamentally motivated by the same things. Idealists are dangerous, and she is so right. So right. For many, many years, our leaders have ignored the fact that Islamics don't have the same worldview that people in Western civilization have. I wonder if Steve Wickoff and Jared Kushner realize that. I wonder if President Trump realizes that. Apparently, they've got an ironclad way of making sure they can enforce this memorandum of understanding. But again, something you need to understand. We're not signing a nuke deal with Iran Friday. We're signing a memorandum of understanding that kicks the can down the road for another 60 days. 60 more days of ceasefire. And of course, they've been violating the ceasefire that we've had in effect for a while anyway. So, have fun with that. Doc Washer Show continues, Little Rock's premier talk station. 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues if you want to get on the air with me and discuss what we're talking about. Number to call is 501 401 1011. Now, Gavin Newsom is out there talking about being under investigation by the DOJ. He's doing his best Linda Ronstadt impersonation. Poor, pitiful me. But turns out the DOJ started investigating Governor Newsom when Biden was still when Merrick Garland was still AG. Okay, all right. So Susan Crabtree, our go-to gal, not just for Secret Service scandals, but also California politics. She's national correspondent for Real Clear Politics. She says President Trump knew federal investigations into Gavin Newsom's activities would give him the attention he wanted, but said the federal government should investigate anyway, and raised repeated concerns about the California corruption under Gavin Newsom's watch. The same type of corruption that Jed McFadder and Susan Crabtree chronicled through their book, Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All, available on Amazon or at your favorite local bookstore. Governor Gavin Newsom says he and his wife are under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice at the direction of President Donald Trump. Newsom says federal agents have contacted friends, family, former employees, and associates seeking records and requesting interviews. If Newsom and California's first partner are truly under investigation, then he would have received a target letter from the FBI, but Newsom doesn't mention a target letter. Now, it is 100% within the DOJ's purview to investigate allegations of corruption that involve possible federal crime. The FBI investigated Willie Brown when he was mayor of San Francisco for years, but came up short, although they nabbed several of his San Francisco city employees. Willie Brown, that was Kamala's old boyfriend. Yeah, Kamala Harris got her start in politics by being the mistress of Willie Brown. He was married at the time, which did not bother her. When she was running for vice president, somebody asked Willie Brown, hey, I bet your old paramour there, Kamala Harris. And Willie Brown said, well, here's the deal. She was madly in love with me, and I was also madly in love with myself, so we got along just fine. I'm sorry. Okay. Follow up on Carmelo Anthony appealing his murder guilty verdict. Sarah Fields, great investigative reporter. She's out there saying, just an FYI, not a single level-headed, logical person is worried about an appeal in the Carmelo Anthony case. I have zero concern. Many of the same people who spent the last year insisting that Carmelo Anthony acted in self-defense are now placing all of their hope in an appeal. But the problem is that appeals are not second trials. An appellate court does not decide whether it agrees with the jury. An appellate court does not even reweigh the evidence. An appellate court does not revisit every witness and ask who it believes more. The job of the appellate court is to determine whether a significant legal error occurred during the trial. The jury heard the self-defense argument. The defense was allowed to present witnesses. The evidence was presented. The jury deliberated and returned a guilty verdict. Unless appellate counsel can identify a specific legal error that materially affected the outcome of the trial, the murder conviction of Carmelo Anthony stands. That is why most criminal appeals fail. What will likely happen next is what we've already watched happen for over a year. If the conviction is upheld, many of the same activists who insisted the evidence was on their side will claim the appeal was rigged. They'll claim the courts were corrupt. They'll claim the judge is biased. They'll claim the wrong video footage was shown. They'll claim the jury is racist. And they'll claim the entire judicial system was a setup. By the way, the only video footage was shown in the courtroom on day one, and it only helped the prosecution, not the defense. At some point, people will have to accept reality. Not every unfavorable outcome can be explained away as a conspiracy. A jury heard the evidence. A verdict of guilty was reached. An appeal will review the law, not rewrite the facts. If the conviction is affirmed, it won't be because of a setup. It will be because the appellate court found no reversible error in the trial proceedings. And if I may, CBS Morning Show, the next day, had Carmelo's mom and dad on. And the guy, pardon me, was it Jonah Kaplan or Joshua Kaplan? I think it's Jonah Kaplan. He let them lie. He let them say there was an all-white jury, which there wasn't. There were Hispanic, Asian people on there, Arab. One lady was in a hijab. It was not an all-white jury, but CBS Mornings let them lie. And the report of CBS also said that the prosecution said, or was the defense? I think the prosecution said that Carmelo stabbed Austin Metcalf after Austin and his teammates taunted and shoved him. Prosecution never said anybody taunted Carmelo, and they never said that anybody other than Austin shoved him. So the CBS guy even lied. The great Dave Ellswick, Val Emmons, 7:06 in the morning. I'll see you at 4:06 tomorrow afternoon. God willing, I'm Doc Washburn, 101.1 The Answer.
No matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids, no matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
All right. Welcome to the Kernel of Truth. I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds.
Welcome to the Kernel of Truth. I'm Will Huff here with Colonel Conrad Reynolds.
You can't hear me?
You're on now.
Oh. What happened? What happened? We're on the air now. We were trying to stop. Anyway, I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds. We're with the Kernel of Truth. I'm here with Will Huff.
Hello, hello, hello.
And it is June the 15th. Can you believe we're already into mid-June now?
Mid-June.
Mid-June. And I got to give a shout out. Shout out to President Trump for happy birthday yesterday for turning 80 years old. 80 years old. You have to give it to
wild.
the guy.
That's wild.
That's wild. Yeah, the Energizer Bunny, man, at 80. and he is, he works nonstop, 4 hours of sleep a night.
They had a big celebration yesterday at the White House for his 80th birthday.
A big celebration. Tell us about it.
Well, it was a large UFC fight octagon set up in front of the White House. They call it the White House lawn, but it kind of looked like there was a facade in front of it. I'm not sure exactly where they put it, but big. They had the UFC. He did on the video walking like a wrestling introduction. It was a very pomp and circumstance type.
Was that on the north side?
He came out of the back, but it was on the north side of the White House and where the fountain is.
Right.
And there's that park and the blocked off gate. I don't know if it was inside the gate or outside the gate where they set it up, because you couldn't tell from the pictures. But it was a very, very, very extravagant production.
Wow. Well, he's been a big supporter of the
UFC for long.
Oh, yeah.
Since the beginning.
Yeah. He's been a big.
So Dana White, the owner of it, is that's one of his biggest supporters.
Anyway, the president turned 80. One of our oldest presidents, actually. So unbelievable. But anyway, he's going strong, and he's right on the verge of an unbelievable agreement if it gets signed. If everything happens. I know they signed it digitally, but I think this coming Friday they're supposed to. We'll know the details of this agreement with Iran.
Yeah. Trump got to the G7 today. He's again 80 years old at a UFC fight all afternoon, all evening. Then gets on a plane, flies to the G7. But there he, announced that there's a preliminary agreement that's meant to end the Gulf conflict and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And one of the things about it, though, is it kind of too early to celebrate this deal like they're doing? Like, what's your
talk about that? I think it's way too early. Personally, I don't think we need to be taking any victory laps. You just have to look at who you're dealing with. I personally, if I were going to give odds, I would not bet that this is a good deal. I would bet that this deal the Iranians will blow it up at some point. They'll have an excuse for not going through with everything. Mm-hmm. They've done that forever for the last, since 1979. They will continue to do that. They buy time. Buy time. And I think that's what they're doing. And they're hoping to get a lot of the money that they have in offshore accounts released,
unfrozen.
So they'll be able to get that money. And we'll see what happens. But I'm very interested in what's going to happen with the details. As I say, the devil's in the details.
Yeah, and they don't have those worked out.
When are we going to get the nuclear material? When is
Yeah.
that going to happen? How is that going to happen? Who actually is going to be able
Who's going to go get the dust?
Will the IAEA have the opportunity to go in and do checks and will they be able to do that?
Mhm.
We've seen in the past they've not been able to do that. So I'm not, I give it a 50-50 chance. We'll see. But right now, it
It's
looks
not
like
that you don't trust our side; it's that you don't trust Iran.
no,
to
I
any kind
trust
of
our
deal,
side. But I think
that we're in good faith.
well, hopefully they won't release anything. But again, this is not a treaty. This is a memorandum of understanding, an MOU.
Yeah, if you
between
do
the
this,
two
we'll do
countries.
this. If you do this, we'll
That's
do
right.
this.
And so what you need to understand, that's, that can be broken in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well, we understood this. You're not
Mhm.
doing this, or and it can be a real problem. But we'll see what happens. I know they have the negotiators on it, and
There was a report that administration officials were optimistic in ways, but what they said is pretty much the deal doesn't give Iran anything, but it says, listen, if you can act like normal people, we'll treat you like normal people as part of the world economic system and everything else. Like, just don't be bullies and attacking your neighbors, and we can all work together, and then we can have prosperity throughout the world together. That's
Right.
kind of where it's what they're saying. They were optimistic on the effects it could have if Iran would just try to act like normal people, their leadership. But one of the big pushbacks is you're giving legitimacy to those ayatollahs in that led government,
Right.
where the people don't want them there. They're there by force.
Well, again, we don't know all the details of the
Mhm.
agreement probably until this Friday, and then we'll have an opportunity to look at that. And I'm sure that the next week, Doc will be able to probably dissect that each item by item. I guarantee he's going to do that. But one thing that we believe is in there is that there's a 60-day, 2-month period after they sign, within which they will discuss the removal of the nuclear materials.
Yeah,
and
the details of that.
right,
part.
the details of that part.
Yeah.
So I think that there's that bothers me that that's really not already been done.
Yeah.
And that should have already been
So
done
they're
as far
ju-
as
they're
I'm
ju-
concerned.
I think it's really an agreement to just say, hey, let's get the ships moving back through the strait right now. Everything else we'll figure out later. We're not unfreezing your funds. We're not taking you off the blockade or the full sanctions. We're not taking off the sanctions. We're not doing any of that stuff until over the next 60 days we figure out what you're going to do with this nuclear material. We're not removing our troops from the region. We're not de-escalating anything. We're just opening the strait and stopping the blockade.
Mark my word, after it's signed, they're going to expect millions, and they're going to say, you should release our money now. Our people need it. We're starving. And they will push every opportunity to get the money released
and they'll
before
probably have
the 60 days.
They'll probably have a sympathetic media too.
Oh, yeah.
Starting to show some,
They'll show them the hospitals need medical equipment. They need, water, basic necessities for the population there. They got 90 million people. And I suspect that that's what they'll do to try to put world pressure on releasing funds.
Mhm.
That's what they're trying to do, to buy more time. They know the closer they get to the midterms, the less likely President Trump will do anything.
Yeah, he'll stop attacking. He doesn't
Right.
want a war where they could be used against.
They're trying to just
Republicans.
survive. They are just trying to survive.
One of the side effects of this memorandum of understanding is that crude oil dropped more than 4% today.
Yeah.
And with the oil dropping, the stocks went through the roof, and we had another record close. Again, with the midterms in mind, I think that's why they're announcing this memorandum.
I think there's no question about that. Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with wanting change in the region. We need to have our save face in the political season, it looks like, or at least not have something that can be used against us for no reason at all in our purpose. So, but word is that Israel's not happy, that they don't fully agree with what the president is agreeing to, that, hey, nobody's going to shoot anyone. You can't go after Hezbollah or anyone in Lebanon, like it's off limits also. So there's that pushback there. But again, it's by America saying we're not going to be in this anymore. Our economy seems to be benefiting from it and regular Americans.
Yeah, and also I think it's no secret that the president has been very frustrated with Bibi Netanyahu for some of the things that they've been doing, particularly in Lebanon, and the negative effect that it's causing on us trying to get a deal and trying to make this deal happen. And I think President Trump understands the political pressure here in America.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get something done, but it's constantly being derailed by some of the things that the Israelis have been doing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't have a right to.
They're a sovereign country.
Yeah, they got a right to protect themselves, but I'm just saying it's a problem in the Middle East. You're going to have these back and forth, tit for tat, no matter if you have a ceasefire agreement or even a peace treaty. That's going to happen.
The president was asked,
Always has.
what is a ceasefire? He said, well, over there, you're not shooting as much.
Right.
So a ceasefire is you're not shooting as much over there, and that like have a little calm to go with it.
Well, the other thing is that the current leadership, as President Trump pointed out, the group that they're dealing with now is the third group that they've been dealing with
because they've killed the other ones.
Yeah, so this is the third group, and they hope that they're a little bit more responsive and will do what needs to be done. But I have a word of caution, and the caution is my history and my studies of Iran is they probably won't.
No.
The odds are it's more likely than not that they will not follow through and abide by the terms of the agreement, whatever the agreement ultimately is.
I mean, it sounds like common sense that you would say, yes, I want to be a part of the world economy. I want to prosper. I want our people to be safe and prosper. But for the people running Iran, that's not their number one goal. Their number one goal is to die for Allah.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult to deal with these guys in a rational way.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. There was I forgot who it was, some guy being interviewed who's in Iran, who's a journalist, and basically was saying, "Let me tell you how it's being covered here, and what the people here are hearing from the state-run propaganda machine there in Iran, and they're acting really tough, like they're really and truly
winning a war.
They're the ones on calling the shots on this negotiation. It really is funny how they try to make it look like that they are in charge. Right. We're not really winning. They really are. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing turns out. We'll know more on Friday, and we'll just have to keep up with it.
The ones I feel bad for are the people who had stood up to this regime in Iran, who now are kind of being left behind as, no, those guys are your leaders. We're working with them, and it's good. So,
well, it's the same thing that kind of happened in Venezuela. I mean, Venezuela, there were a lot of people who were really, really ready to go in and make a huge change in Venezuela, in the government and in total. But the administration didn't go down that route. They went ahead and allowed the people,
the vice president, to stay in.
Delcy Rodriguez, and that's wrong.
Whose brother apparently is part of one of the groups in the Cartel de Solis.
Right.
And so
which is the big cartel, folks, if you don't know. I mean, they're huge.
It's like the parent of Tren de Aragua.
Yeah, they're a huge criminal enterprise. I've read reports and talked to people who says that the criminal enterprise is up to like 3.5 trillion.
Yeah, worth more than Elon. 3 Elons.
Yeah, really, really. I mean, they have all kinds of nefarious activities around the world and with different terrorist groups and influence, and even in Europe, big time influence, and particularly there in Spain. So anyway,
we had Gary Bernson on our show talking about what was going on in Venezuela, and in a book that he was a source for called "Stolen Elections," they laid out all the connections from Delcy Rodriguez all the way through to where it ties into the voting machine companies of the USA. So we were really, really hoping that it was a full regime change in Venezuela when when they went and got Maduro, that it would
Right.
be a new government of like really a duly elected president.
I think that they didn't go forth. I think there may be a lot of reasons for that. But
midterms could be a reason for
well,
that too.
I think the biggest one was they knew they were going into Iran.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to have a two-war front. And they felt like, okay, we'll give it a shot and see if they can manage their own affairs.
And Delsey is capitulating to the United States because just this weekend we bombed the Trinidad Tobago leader, blew up his camp. We went in with fighter jets and blew them up with permission.
Well, if you haven't seen that video, you ought to see it, man. They zero right in on his house, and they blew it up to smithereens.
And that was with permission from the Venezuelan government.
Right.
So we are getting some of what we want, but again, the Cartel de Solis will sacrifice Trinidad and Tobago because that's just a part of their thing. Like it's not the main mission of the group. So I think. Anyway, so I'm hoping we'll have a legitimate elections down there soon and get the good people in. But real fast on Donald Trump just posted, he said, Iran has agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. Also, the story that the U.S. is paying Iran $300 million is fake news put out by the Democrats, President DJT. So he's saying we are not giving $300 million, but I'm going to throw a caveat to there. They're not saying Iran is not getting $300 million.
Right.
The Gulf states have said, apparently in this memorandum, if Iran acts like a good neighbor, they will start helping Iran become like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and all of that. They will work together to build a solid Middle East of Gulf nations.
Yeah, the problem is all the other ones are Sunnis. And
they're Shia,
and they're Shiites, and so it's going to be a tough one to negotiate that. But we'll see what happens.
It's a 1,500-year quarrel going on.
So I don't see that. I just don't see it. But it may happen.
You know, hopefully they all find Jesus, and then we'll end up with a really, really good region of peace over there. But when it comes to the international relations and us going into Iran and stuff, we had a lot of our allies that are supposed to be our allies not come in and help us, not let us land at our bases or use our bases for bombing. And President Trump's at the G7 right now, and I'm sure he's not friends with Spain or Germany and England.
Yeah.
And they're probably laughing at us or don't like us. Would you rather have a president that other world leaders like him, like maybe an Obama, all the world leaders wanted to be around him? Or would you rather have someone who's just defending America no matter what?
Right. I want Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I wanted Donald Trump the first time I saw him because I felt like the fact that he was paying for his own primary told me a lot about who he was. He was not willing to be, owned by anybody, and he would make good decisions. And the things that he was saying that he was going to do, I knew that he had the ability to do it because he wasn't owned by anybody. But we see time and time again, all of our politicians that come into office, how many of them tell you one thing and then they get there and they do something completely different? And then they always have an excuse for doing the wrong thing. It just makes me sick. Right now, Senator Thune, who, by the way, President Trump has tried to talk nice about, just said he is not going to put the SAVE Act or he's not going to attach it to any legislation.
No, he doesn't want it to go through. We're not going to do this.
No, and that's the number one thing. And really, what is it? All it's asking is what?
ID and citizenship.
ID and citizenship. I mean, are you kidding me? Is that such a far out idea? We want to make sure that the people who are here, who are citizens, can vote. Their vote counts, and it's not watered down by people who came here illegally. That's what we're trying to do, and President Trump wants that. That's what this bill does, and it's the Republicans are killing it, folks.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like here in Arkansas, it's the Republicans who fight against actually securing the election.
And I want more out of our politicians, our Republicans. I want more out of them. I want our senators to stand up and basically say they disagree. Where are they on the record? Calling out Thune and saying this is ridiculous. Where's a cabal of Republican senators getting together and saying this is wrong? We need to pass this. calling him out. They're not doing it.
No,
you don't see one of them. Not one of them.
It's because they're on his side. That's
Well,
what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, it tells me that, they're given a pass. Okay, you can go ahead and say you're going to vote for it. You're given a pass. If it comes up, you're going to vote for it. But they know it never will.
Yeah.
They know it never will.
Or
Because behind closed doors, they've already made a decision. We're not going to pass this.
Or they'll wait until they don't have a majority anymore. Then they'll bring it up.
Oh yeah, then they'll vote it on it. 80 times. I voted for it 80 times.
I voted for it over and over and over.
And if it wasn't for that president, but once Trump got in, all of that,
None
you
of
just
the-
saw how much they lied, folks. It makes me sick. That's just where we're at today in politics.
One of the other sick things about the Republicans that happened last week is they had Josh Hawley from Missouri gavel in and gavel out just so Trump could not make recess appointments.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Explain that.
Well, there's a thing called recess appointments where if the Congress is out for a certain amount of time, I think it's like 10 days, he can all of his appointee nominations can be pushed through on a temporary basis, like half a year. They can go through, and they're called recess appointments
Right.
as long as the Congress is out. So Josh Hawley came in and gavelled in saying, we're now in session, and then we're now out of session. The only reason to do it is to stop Trump from doing recess appointments,
Right.
to filling in the gaps in his administration.
Right.
And
there's a lot of gaps, folks.
If
There are
Republicans-
so many gaps, and people that cannot get through the Senate to be approved. It's unbelievable. I don't know. It's like I'm just guessing here, but I've been told it's something like 80 or 90 ambassadorships that have not been filled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, Trump is already a year and a half into his term, and there are 80 or so, 90 ambassadorships. And who's there? Well, the charge d'affaires. You get your number 2 guy, who a lot of times these are people that Biden put in, and they're still in charge. And these key embassies, we really need the embassies and need to have everybody on the same sheet of music. And unfortunately, we're not getting that.
And we're not getting a change in a lot of the positions that are held by liberals. Very,
Right.
very, very liberal people who are throughout our government right now because we can't get the nominees through to make the old ones leave their position. And so we're stuck again. Well, like back to Thune not doing the right thing. The parliamentarian who writes all the bills in the Senate is a far leftist, and Thune has the power to put someone else in and refuses to do that.
Right.
They let this person write the language in the bills that favors the Democrats.
Right.
Why?
There's a lot of whys, and I don't know. I know that just for you guys that are listening, we had hoped to go up to DC last week. We may still go up this week. We're looking at that. That may be a possibility. We're trying to help and assist members of Congress to be able to know that there is an alternative here. We have the Make Election Security and the Mesa bill, and we want them to know that that is something else that we need to put on the plate. But there's got to be public pressure on our Congress, both the House and Senate, to pass these bills, to get these things done. Because I'm telling you, once November comes around, nobody's going to be doing anything until after the elections. Nothing, maybe even before. We probably only have about a month and a half in order to try to get some bills passed. After that, it's going to be nobody doing anything until after the elections. And I pray that we take the House and Senate again, and Trump, his last 2 years, will be able to really do some really, really good things.
Again, if the Republicans keep acting like they are right now, even having the majority doesn't seem to be beneficial to us.
Well, we got a majority, but not the right people.
Yeah.
And,
But the primaries, Trump went out and backed almost every incumbent.
Right.
So that was one of the, head scratchers of the primary season is we didn't get
The problem is the
change.
numbers are so close, both in the House and the Senate. It only takes a few.
Yeah, the Murkowskis.
It only takes a few, And
at least Mitch McConnell's going to be gone. But
Well, yeah, but you mean because he's in the hospital right now?
No,
He went to the hospital yesterday.
Oh yeah, not gone like that.
Oh,
but,
okay.
he didn't run for re-election, so his seat
right.
is.
But he
his
went to
seat
the
is up.
hospital yesterday,
Yeah.
so I don't know what happened.
Oh, he might be gone soon.
He may be. I don't know how that turned out,
So,
but I do know
I
that
hope he knows Jesus.
they called emergency and sent him to the hospital. So
Yeah, I hope he knows Jesus. So
yes,
that's all we can say. But with Congress again, their Republican platform items and America First agenda, we saw the ones Trump did endorse. Like the slate was like almost 100% in the primaries, and then the people in Congress are still not doing the America First stuff. We're still writing checks to Ukraine over and over and over. And right now at the G7, Zelensky is there trying to get more support and trying to say, hey, you got peace in Iran. Why don't you help us get peace here and help us in the fight against Russia? Do you think we should be now supporting Ukraine to finish what they had in Russia, or just tell them to make a deal and get out of this?
Well, that's going to be that's an interesting thought. I don't know yet. I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't put a lot of thought into that.
Because if they wanted to end it now with Russia, Russia is the only thing we say. Wherever we are right now, it's our land now.
Well, it's kind
We're
of a
not giving you
stalemate,
anything back.
and the Ukraine has fought back, and they've suffered a tremendous amount of deaths.
Yeah.
By the young people fighting for their country. I think that it's not just the U.S. that's going to have to play a part in this. It's all of Europe. They're going to have to play a part in it. And
should we force
determine.
Russia to give back the land they took, that Donbass region?
Yeah.
That's going to be the major.
Well,
question.
we have an agreement with minerals. With the Ukrainian government.
Yeah.
So it's in our best interest to make sure that they do leave.
Yeah.
Will they leave? I don't know.
Mhm.
It's going to take a lot more than just a strongly worded letter to have them leave.
One of the conspiracy theories during COVID is that the U.S. was funding biolabs in Ukraine.
Well, interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard just came out last Friday?
Yeah.
And she dropped a bunch of declassified a lot of intel information that clearly showed we do have biolabs being funded in the Ukraine.
Yeah. And so
something they have said that we were told over and over again that's not true.
It's not true. But Laura Loomer today was posting that she said Tulsi Gabbard just took Russian propaganda and slapped DNI on the paperwork. So that there's something going on within the realm of people who have access to President Trump arguing about the validity of this. But the Russia propaganda label is the same thing they did to Hunter's laptop.
Right.
They said this is just Russian propaganda. That's their way of trying to get people to totally dismiss it and never believe.
Right.
And we're seeing that with all these CIA former intelligence people over and over and over. And they're doing it now with reports about voting machines.
Well, yeah. Right. Well, I think Tulsi released this stuff, and I believe that there's no manipulation of that. Or that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just there, though. There were these biolabs all over the world, folks. I mean, it wasn't just
including
there.
Wuhan, China.
Yeah, and so and everything we were told was not true.
All the things that were called conspiracy theories ended up being true stories.
Yeah, every time we turn around, it's a conspiracy, and then it turns out to be true.
Yeah, but then the news never covers that it was true. Like one of the conspiracy theories was that January 6th was full of federal agents. That's just a conspiracy. That's not real. That never happened. And then would we find out thousands of FBI informants there leading the way?
I don't know if there's thousands, but they had a lot. They had a lot of FBI informants, and I'm still not for sure that they didn't have actual FBI personnel yet. I still don't know that, but we do know that a lot of their sources, people that they paid on the payroll, were there instigating, leading, and that's a fact that happened.
And Ray Epps and his buddies, nothing ever happened to them. How is that possible when he's the one saying, go in, break in? And then there's people who were protecting.
Well, they were calling him fed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a there's a lot there, folks. I mean,
but they're called conspiracy theories, and then they're proven true later, and then nobody covers that part of it,
right?
That it's true. And so it's the conspiracy things are just stories that haven't been verified.
Yeah. Well, President Trump has hinted, and just recently, even as soon as last week, that there is information coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they have the receipts. They've got everything that they need. They're to be able to prove to the American people that the 2020 election was stolen.
Yeah,
and they're going to show that, and they're going to expose all the bad actors and how they did it. And there's a lot of ways to do it, folks. One thing that Will and I have learned over the last 4 years is 3 years, whatever, 3.5 years, is that there are a lot of ways to manipulate these elections. A lot of ways,
by 1,000 cuts.
And so it doesn't have to be one specific way. It can be a variety of 7 or 8 different techniques used in order to be able to manipulate our elections, and that's a problem. And unfortunately, whenever we bring this up, the people who are loyal to the establishment, loyal to the system, are coming out, against us. But we're not against them. All we're doing is wanting to have fair and transparent elections so that everybody can trust them. Yet, as soon as we come up and say that, then somehow we're the enemy, we're the problem. So much so that they're going after me. They're trying to prosecute me. It's really crazy that people who I identify with as a Republican, yet they see me as the enemy because I'm simply trying to bring them up to speed with the vulnerabilities and the problems with our current system. And it's not just me. It's all the experts that we've interviewed over the course of the last couple of years who support everything that we're saying. But none of these people who are against us here have taken the time to talk to any of these experts. They don't do it, because it would necessitate that they change their mind, and then they would have to go against the system that they're loyal to here.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And when it became like a club, like you're either on this side or that side,
right?
And you can't go change your opinion now because you're part of the club that's the one way. It's like being a Razorbacks fan. You see Alabama winning all the time, but you can't change from being a Razorbacks fan because that's the side you chose.
Right.
And that's what it's like with this election.
Well, it's even worse than that because they make it to where the people, and I've talked to people, and they feel like their livelihood is at stake. Their future careers at stake if they dare, say anything negative or go on the other side or join our effort in listening.
If they even
they don't even want to listen.
If they even hint that they might be on our side, we've had people getting their we got people saying getting primary opponents that are funded by the establishment. We get people who are threatened to be removed from their committees, or that their laws will never get passed, that they'll never get any of their bills taken up. So
we see that we hear it all the time from some of our legislators, and it's very disheartening. But we're going to keep fighting because that's what we do here. And AVII continues to push because we think it's that important. A future of our republic is very, very important to all of us. We want to make sure that your vote counts. So I'm fighting for your vote. I'm not fighting for the machine companies. I'm not fighting for a system that you cannot understand, for a system that is not transparent, and that we have to just trust them. That's what we're not going to do. We're going to keep moving.
Yep. Over and over and over. It feels like Groundhog Day that we have to have the same conversations with the same people. But, until it sinks in and they realize it. But it's going to take the president and DNI, Gabbard, and a lot of declassified information, I think, to change some minds.
Well, I know that we brought up a couple other things I'll bring up again. I cannot wait. We're waiting right now for a couple of big decisions from the United States Supreme Court. The one that I'm really waiting on is the birthright citizenship case. And I think that is pivotal to the survival of our country. The Supreme Court has to rule, in my opinion, they have to rule that when they say in under the jurisdiction thereof, means that you cannot be an illegal. If you're illegal and you come into our country, I don't. If you have a child, sorry, because we've just rewarded their bad behavior.
Yeah.
We rewarded them for breaking our system. And they've had news reports on this, folks, for decades, where even in China, they have these women that get pregnant and they bring them
Birthing
over.
tourism is what they-
Birthing tourism. They bring them over just about the time they are going to have give birth. If the kid is born here, they have them all set up in a house or a place, whether it's California or Florida, and then the child is a U.S. citizen. They go back. That opens the door for them to come back at any time.
Mhm.
That is just wrong, and no other country, to my knowledge, does that, and we need to fix that. And the Supreme Court has this opportunity. They have this opportunity to fix it. It would really mean something big for our country. I do not think in the 1860s, when they wrote the 14th Amendment, they ever thought about this.
Yeah.
They ever thought about the fact that you'd have illegals coming in and giving birth and doing what they're doing now. No.
Yeah, that wasn't the purpose. Was explicitly for Black people who were slaves to be treated like regular citizens.
Yeah, and if they were here, then they were brought in, and if they were here and they had birth and their children are U.S. citizens, that's what it was meant for. They were trying to right a wrong, and they were doing their best to do that.
And then that's been exploited.
And that's been exploited, just like just about everything. I mean, talk about being exploited. I mean, all the people from a lot of these foreign nations, particularly the Somalis, they've exploited our system to their benefit. They've tried to bleed out, the financial underpinnings of our social services for their own benefit, to exclude everybody else, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we've got to do something about it. I think that, what really bothers me, and I know we're just talking here, but what really bothers me is that this has been a problem for a long, long time. What happened to all those oversight, agencies that were supposed to be doing oversight? Government? Where are they? Yeah. Well, like in Minnesota, where were they? Where's the oversight? Where all these politicians were there and nobody did anything, even though now we know, because there has been testimony, that state representatives, senators had tried to sound the alarm, but they were shut down.
Yep.
They were shut down quickly.
And when we saw even like some people from, I think it was the mayor of Minnesota, that had said, "Hey, if you get us the Somali support, we're not going to be looking into this. We're not going to be digging into this. So we'll shut down the investigations. Our candidates need the support of the Somali community."
Yeah, and I mean, there's tape even with the attorney general up there, and it appears basically what he said. Hey, they were asking his help us, in these investigations and in this stuff, and it sounded like he was pretty much on their side. Yeah. And then when he said, "Yeah, I'll help you," a little bit later, he got a big donation into his campaign.
Yeah, going back to the Supreme Court and immigration, the Supreme Court actually agreed today to hear President Trump's appeal about whether convicted immigrants can be held without their bond hearings because they don't want to release them because they'll just disappear. So do you think that illegal immigrants have the same due process rights as Americans, or should we be able to indefinitely hold them until they're gone?
Wow, that's a good question. Indefinitely hold them. There you go. As far as I'm concerned, they came here illegally.
Yeah, they have no rights.
They have no
in
rights.
Our country.
No.
Yeah, they should. They're not supposed to be here, so they have no rights. So, does the Constitution apply to non-citizens who should not be here?
Yeah, I do not think so, because they don't fall under the jurisdiction of America.
Of America.
So there you go.
And so, like I think there's a foreign national. Are they allowed to own weapons in the United States? Like, if I remember right, through the process of my wife getting her status, that she's wasn't allowed to own a firearm until she. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, but don't go out and make a bet on it.
If that's the case, though, that means the Second Amendment didn't apply,
right?
Because that's the right to bear arms. So there might be precedent already that has that. So, but the Supreme Court today said they will have that. So that's 2 immigration type hearings that are coming up.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of time, folks. I mean, the term ends the end of June, right?
Yeah, and we gave Thune in the Senate some hard time, but this last week they passed the $70 billion immigration enforcement bill with money to go in and secure our border and help with the deportations. So at least one thing got through the Republican Senate recently, and so I'm glad that's there. And that leads into something that's kind of been happening.
But you know what? Isn't that sad that is something that we should be
We have to
cheering about?
celebrate.
I mean, they should have done that day one, and they should have done that a long time ago.
And it was a fight to get it done.
Right. I mean, that should not even be a problem, but apparently it is with our Republican Senate.
And again, with the Republican Senate and a 180 by Trump is the fight to put the FISA warrants, reinstall them so they are there and available. How do you feel?
Well, passing the FISA law, the Foreign Intelligence. FISA stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and it was passed, I think, in 1978 because of after the Church Commission looked at a lot of the malfeasance, a lot of things that the government was doing, particularly the CIA, spying on U.S. citizens, and so they wanted to make sure that there was a process that was put in place so that people's rights were not abused, and that there was
that our government's not illegally spying on us.
That's right, and you have to be associated with or declared the agent of a foreign power. And that's what FISA, I call it the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, even though a lot of the actual surveillance that occurs on U.S. citizens who are here in America.
Because a lot of it might be a phone call between, let's just pretend it's a terrorist you're talking to, then he calls an American citizen. Now that American citizen's phone call, does the CIA hang up on that? Or do you continue?
Well, the answer, it depends.
Yeah.
But if there's usually, like with NSA, if there's a U.S. person involved, they have to hang up. They cannot continue. Or if it's with a terrorist, then they have to non-identify that person. Okay, so they can't be identified. But there's a lot of rules. It's called UCID 18. There's a lot of different rules that apply there. When we did investigations, I did counter-espionage investigations back in the 90s and early 2000s, and I will tell you that we did FISAs on people. And on my involvement, of course, it was because if it was a military member, but if we had a military member who had a lot of communication with a foreign, a terrorist or someone we knew that was a bad guy in another country, back and forth, and there was enough there, or if there was a intelligence that came in that supported the fact that this person was in fact in cahoots or working with a foreign intelligence service, then that would be brought and put under a FISA, written up. I've written them before, and you write it up and you give it to the FISA court, who then make a determination if you have probable cause, where you can use these extraordinary type of surveillance techniques in order to find out if this person is in fact a bad person. But there's a lot to it, and I never in a million years believed or thought that would be abused like it was in the Carter Page case. I never believed that people would do that, because you're risking going to jail, and you're also you're doing on to a fellow American. And I always thought that people would not do that because of their own livelihood. I mean, you're risking your whole career doing something stupid like that.
Lying on the warrant or
something stupid. But you know what? I never thought it would happen because I thought there were safeguards in place. But apparently those safeguards were not in place. And we saw that happen against Carter Page. So I believe that there needs to be a total revamping of the whole system.
I think it's got to go away because we've proven there's no accountability for breaking the rules of the FISA system.
Right. Well, there's got to be accountability, and they do need to go after it. But I will tell you, it's a valuable tool. It is a valuable tool. I don't know that I, having seen the other side, would be willing, because not only does it help determine if someone is guilty it also helps to determine if an American is innocent
Mm-hmm.
and has nothing to do with it. Okay, it also helps that. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of things that it does. So anyway, I'm sure we could debate that for forever, but that's what the FISA thing and then
Yeah.
and Trump is.
Trump said he wanted it to go away when he was running, and now he said, no, we got to pass it.
Right.
And so he's done a 180 on
I
it.
think he's probably seen a lot of the things that I know.
Yeah.
And once you get on the other side of it, as long as it's used properly and there are safeguards in place and people actually are punished if they break those safeguards, then I think that it could still be used.
I don't trust our national intelligence agencies right now.
Well, I somehow I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you based on what we've seen. But again, the intelligence community is only made up of Americans.
Yeah.
It's made up of people that make up America. And but I will tell you, over the last, since 2008, they brought in a lot of people and put a lot of people into the intelligence system that weren't like the people that were in the 90s and 80s and 70s and 60s.
Not for the love of the country.
Not for the love of the country. And so you got a lot of people in there that have different allegiances.
Politics.
And we saw that in 2016.
Identity politics allegiance.
And we said, well, they have allegiance to different things, and it's not the country.
Yeah.
And so, other things trump that. And so that's, anyway, I think we need to try to fix it.
Yeah. And so one other thing that's trying to get fixed is the roads are full of people who can't speak English driving large semi trucks.
We've talked about this. We've talked about this.
And hazmat and all
Out
that.
here in Arkansas, we've talked about it.
Yeah. We're just recently in Alma had a guy, no name given, as his license, driver's license, where he's pulled over, can't understand instructions on using his blinkers or his tail lights, but he's let go with a citation for a missing blinker. And even though his license says no name given, but the transportation department announced new rules requiring commercial truck drivers testing in English and trying to crack down on the fraudulent CDL schools and tying the licenses to English proficiency.
Right. If you don't know what CDL is, that's your commercial driver's license. You have to have that in order to drive for a company. And that's what all these folks driving these big rigs, these 18-wheelers, have to have.
Yeah. And do you think it's unreasonable to ask people driving these big trucks to understand English?
No. I mean, it'd be like saying, in order to get your medical license, should you speak English?
Yeah.
Can you talk? No. You need to
communicate with your team.
But particularly driving, if you don't understand what the road sign means, you're putting everybody at risk.
And we saw that with the U-turn in Florida.
Yeah.
And so, but so the the transportation department is announcing new rules though to start cracking down on these non-English speaking drivers. So that's a good thing. Well,
and I mean, immigration into our country they're trying to fix it, but look, folks, it is tough. And one thing I don't like, we're not hearing a lot of the numbers of people actually who are being deported. I'm not getting, the numbers that are coming out are not as big as what we thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I think that we need to have a little bit more transparency on that. And I'd like for the administration to do that. I'd like for us to have some website where you can go on and see, just like the debt clock.
Yeah,
I want to see how many people are being deported. How many do we have to deport, and how many are being deported? I'd like to see that.
It's the irony on the things that I was thinking about is when President Trump and the term was ending, they had a clock, your clock thing maybe, on the bottom of the news stations of COVID deaths. It was a running clock of COVID deaths. And as soon as President Trump was not president anymore, that clock went away. It stopped counting when Biden was sworn into office. It's the way the media manipulates the information. That's one of them. But it took me back. I don't know if you remember in 2003, 4, 5, 6, they had a death clock of people who died in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh yeah,
running consistently on the bottom of the news channels. As soon as Barack Obama became president, that was gone. It's that kind of manipulation, and that the people don't buy, or I mean that the people buy into it is one of the problems. And the Democrats have been pushing for 16-year-olds to vote.
Right.
They've been pushing for it, and they're giving all.
Can you believe that? No, first off, let's just talk about how ludicrous this is.
Yeah.
I mean, a 16-year-old to be able to vote.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me.
And the media runs with all these good reasons why 16-year-olds should vote. But this week, they're running with why 16-year-olds shouldn't be on the internet and shouldn't be having social media accounts, that you should be at least 18 before you can get on social media. So where is the logic that a 16-year-old should be able to vote in our elections and choose leaders, but shouldn't be allowed free reign on the internet? Like, there's a disconnect there with that. And so again, it's going to how, the debt clock, the death clocks, and all that add up, and they stop as soon as it's not beneficial to Democrats. And the media is doing the same thing with the conversations. 16-year-olds voting is beneficial to them, but then 16-year-olds not being on the internet, that's where they got to be the helicopter parent.
Well, there's two things that scare me, and that is one, them trying to get 16-year-olds to vote. That's one. The second thing is they're trying to stuff, and they've already said, if we take over, we are going to expand the Supreme Court.
Yeah. But if the Republicans talk about killing the filibuster, oh my God, no, you can't do that.
That's right.
We're going to do it.
That's right. So it's that would be a huge, huge problem if they just try to do that, folks. We cannot allow that to happen.
So
under any circumstances.
and not allowing things to happen. There's a couple election integrity stories that we have, but one of them was in Alaska, where election officials disqualified a candidate because his name was nearly identical to another candidate. And so they said Senator Dan Sullivan had an opponent, and it appeared that he was only there to mislead voters and take votes of the current Dan Sullivan. But is that they were going to use ranked choice voting. They use ranked choice voting there. So that was going to confuse the voters. But does the state have a right to remove somebody from the ballot because his name is the same as someone else?
Well, apparently so. But if they do, I mean, it's. I feel sorry for the guy if he didn't have that. In other words, if that wasn't his intent to do that. But yeah, I can see him doing that.
So we need to find another French Hill to run in a Republican primary. And so maybe we can get someone to change his name to Congressman French Hill and then get on the ballot as Congressman French Hill.
We'll see. Well, we've only got about 15 seconds left, but I will tell you that next week, just so you know, that Will and I will not be here in studio. Doc is going to take over for us for our hour here. And we'll be doing other things. I'll be up in Batesville, Arkansas, talking to a judge up there, it looks like. But that's next Monday. And Doc will be here for us, sitting in, which I really much appreciate. And anything else? Any closing argument you want to make before we go off?
No, I just want to say enjoy these cool days while they last. 85 degrees.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's great. Well, listen, I'm Colonel Conrad Reynolds, along with Will Huff here on the Kernel of Truth. Come back on 101.1 The Answer next week. Doc will be sitting in for us. We've enjoyed it. We'll see you later.
Hey now, if you've got mice, they're having a great time. So if you see one, you can bet there's two. And where there's two, and baby doesn't just make three, it's more like 5 or 6. So if you hear them getting down inside your walls, call the Bugman at 663-9464 or go to bugman.com.
If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1, The Answer. There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer.
we're keeping Arkansas beautiful. Want to lend a hand? Don't be afraid to get them
News
dirty.
breaks fast. We break it down faster. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamak Village, Little Rock.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. With a deal to reopen the Strait of
donation, dollar for dollar.